Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural edition of the Mavpuckcast with Jason
and Jon.
Thank you for clicking this, for listening to us, and hopefully you find some interesting information from this. So, Jon, we have to start by airing some dirty laundry because as of last night, this podcast probably wasn't going to go on if I don't apologize for snubbing you a little bit at the ticket event last night.
It almost ended before it began. Bridget and I were standing talking to Kevin Neubauer and his wife by the skate stand at Baxter Arena. And you guys walked by and I waved at you and you just kept walking by into the arena to get your tickets. And I'm like, what the heck? Are they just like snubbing us now? So yeah, you're on notice. So we'll see how this goes, you know?
Yeah, strike one. So, hopefully I can get over this 2-minute penalty and we can move on with this because we've got some good stuff to talk about today, don't we?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, it's pretty exciting to be here to talk with our little virtual water cooler about one of our favorite things in the world, which is UNO Maverick hockey and college hockey and all that fun stuff as we gear up for the season. So I think it'll be great.
So exhibition is probably about a week out from when this podcast releases. Will be October 7th.
Yeah.
We've got Manitoba coming in, right?
Always a good one. Anytime we play Manitoba, it takes me back to that very first game in October of 1997 when the program started and how exciting that was and how the UNO cheers spontaneously happened. And it was just a great time. And that's when I totally became hooked on this. And I haven't missed a home game since. So I think it'll be fun.
That's awesome. I was in high school.
Of course, yes. Just point out how much younger you are than I am. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's
just kind of slipped in there pretty easily. So, all right. So before we talk about the season and what we expect to happen this season, I think we need to talk about some of the rule changes, right?
Absolutely. It always is kind of a learning curve at the beginning of the season whenever they introduce new little intricacies into the game. So a lot of these seem standard issue, but I think we should give people a rundown because I don't think everybody who's going to games this year is going to know what the rule changes are.
So I think we should probably start with the big one. The big one is the overtime format changes. And so simplify this for us. What do you see as far as this overtime change?
It changes, and remind me if I'm wrong on this, but it changes the points with the RPI. You get
the formula changes.
The formula changes right, if the game ends in a tie.
The format changes if the game goes into overtime. It's the point spread for the pairwise based on if they win or lose in an overtime.
Okay.
The point process for pairwise stays the same if the game ends in a tie because it's a 50-50 split for point.
Okay.
But if you lose in overtime,
that's right,
you still get credit in pairwise.
So you get like a fractional
tenth.
A tenth of a point. Now some people are debating because some people are like a loss is a loss. And so it shouldn't matter whether it's over in overtime or regulation. What are your
especially since it's 5-on-5, right?
Now what are your feelings on that? I mean,
I think it could be good, it could be bad. It really depends on how the coaches kind of manage it. The concern a little bit to me is that teams gamble a little bit too much, particularly towards the end of the season, because obviously if you're needing a bump in the pairwise, if you're one of those bubble teams, 17-18 type of team, you need that little tenth may or may not hurt you too much. It may help you actually just get you over the mark depending on how your competition is doing on any given night. And so they may push a little harder in overtime. It may make for some more exciting hockey.
But I see exactly what you're saying. Whereas they might, play it out for a tie.
Mm-hmm.
Here, they might get a little crazy and do something in overtime to try to get the win in OT so that they could get...
and it's not... There's nothing in the rule book like NHL where if you pull your goalie in a 3-on-3, you lose your chance at the guaranteed point.
Okay.
So that'll be the interesting thing to see. I'm really curious to see if any team decides to do it towards the end of the year. Like, we have to get this win. We need the 90, and the 10th isn't going to matter to us. So pull the goalie in a 5-on-5 and run like 4 minutes of 6-on-5.
Yeah, exactly. It would be really interesting to see that if that happened,
like
though.
Quasi Patrick Waugh in the Avs from a couple years ago,
exactly.
right? When he's like, what is he doing pulling his goalie with like 5 minutes left in the third? And now everyone does it, right?
It's one of those things when I heard about it, I'm like, is it really going to make that big of a difference at the end, or is it just going to kind of be a wash? You never know with these things.
Exactly. Yeah, you never really know. And I don't think it's really going to matter at the beginning of the season. I think we'll really see this rule kind of come into play towards the end of one, with the exception of the other half of that rule, which is now kind of restricting what the conferences can do if they want to go beyond the NCAA points and get a conference point out of something.
Exactly, with the 3-on-3 and the shootout and those types of rules. And that was one of the things Josh Fenton mentioned in his State of the Conference address earlier in the week, was he talked about they're going to continue to be looking at that and continue to be pushing it for that, because they'd like the game to be a little bit more like the NHL, and have overtime that's a little bit more similar, rather than it just ending after that first little overtime period. So, and I don't know how you feel about that. I think the shootouts and the 3-on-3s and those types of things, I think they make the game more exciting, but I understand that they're concerned from the point of view of the pairwise at the end,
and the purist of these guys have grown up playing hockey and stuff. They're kind of attached to that 5-on-5, do or die, play till we fall over kind of concept. And I think it works in the playoffs when you really don't want to give an edge to any special team or something. I mean, you saw a few years ago in the Olympics, when they did the shootout, the Olympics don't have the rule that you can't reuse the same player, and TG Oshie basically just said, I got this, guys. Hitch a ride, and essentially just won it for the US and just going over and over and over again. So there's a side of me that goes, I like the purity of like a 5-on-5 full period, see it till it goes. But at the same point in time, I mean, you don't want these games going into 1 a.m., 2 a.m. when you're nationally televised.
It was kind of exciting when UNO had that happen in one of the CCHA playoffs against Fairbanks one year, and it was kind of exciting because you're just sitting there and you're like, don't worry, I've got all night. You guys can just play as long as you need to get past this game. But you are right. It's like it was like a Penguins game, an NHL Penguins game years and years ago, where I thought I was going to fall asleep and wake up at 2 a.m. and the game was still going to be going on. So yeah, you never know how they do it. Fans love it. Fans like it.
And I would like to see them. I think if you really expect the NCAA to be that precursor to ECHL, AHL, NHL kind of caliber talent, I think you really need to look at what's the word I'm looking for? Mirroring as much as possible what the NHL is doing. And they went that way with the AHL, so now AHL rules now are completely the same as NHL rules, because for a while there it wasn't that way. ECHL still has some of their development stuff, some of the things that the NHL decides, hey, we want to, experiment with this stuff. They'll typically experiment with that now from last season on in the ECHL. So that kind of makes that. So I think college hockey really shouldn't be an experiment. It should be something that the kids can kind of plan on and expect and know that this is the format we're dealing with. And to say, hey, most of these kids have dreams of being NHL players. They have dreams of being the next Jack Gensel type of thing. So
I know, and I mean the good news is they're still allowing conferences within conference play to have their kind of their own additional overtime rules, which I think is nice, because there was some concern that was
and it's almost needed in the NCHL and
NCHC, yeah.
And this brings us into our next topic about talking about what we expect from the Avalanche, or from the Avalanche. Can you tell which team I'm focused on?
Let's throw in your favorite NHL team into the mix there.
Phone, score alert. It's hard here. I get distracted by shiny things. So with the NCHC, if you look at last year, and the number of teams that going into the final weekend, you could be anywhere from 3rd to 7th, I think, in one weekend.
Absolutely,
And the last weekend. And so I think if you took that away from a conference like the NCHC, you really risk it with them, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I just remember the CCHA days when we didn't have it, and it was not only emotionally as a fan, it was a big letdown when the game just like ended after a tie, but I think that chance to earn that extra point is so huge because, like you talked about, you had what'd you have? You had North Dakota, Western Michigan, UNO, and Colorado College were all there kind of fighting for the same spot going down to the wire. And so,
And Denver and Minnesota Duluth weren't finalized in their positions yet either. Yeah. So there's a lot of parity there that we had to deal with. And so what do we think this year? A lot of freshmen on the team.
Yes.
But we also have probably one of the most experienced rosters. We're lacking in the sophomore, junior side of things.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think we get out of the Mavs this year?
I think the Mavs will do well this year. I don't think that they're a 7th place team, to be honest with you. I'm cautiously optimistic about the team just because it's Gabinet's 2nd year behind the bench as head coach. And I don't necessarily think that the team we saw last year was a Mike Gabinet team. That still felt like a Dean Blaze team at times. So I think that they're going to be good this year. The big question mark is the defensive core on the team. How they do keeping the puck away from Evan Wenninger and nets is a key concern. That to me how the team does on that, because last year they gave up an average, I believe, of 3.72 goals per game. And you're not going to win many hockey games, especially in this conference, doing that. So the fact that they won 17, 18 games last season,
it's pretty surprising with a +3.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And their scoring differential between their average goals for and goals against was a pretty wide margin when you look at it. And being a data guy, their Corsi was pretty low. So I think for me, I'm looking for puck possession. It's not so much the defense being the defense and that kind of typical, like, can they prevent the puck from getting to Evan, as much as it is, can we control the puck both in our zone when we're transitioning and moving it out,
right,
but also in the offensive zone.
Absolutely.
I don't think we can match up against some of these teams if we're in this run and gun game where it's tennis hockey, back and forth. I think that's going to hurt us. I think we can have the conditioning to run something like that, but I don't know that we have the scoring prowess to win an 8-7 game.
Well, and I don't know enough about Gabinet's philosophy after just one season to know whether I'm assuming he's not a proponent of the Dean Blaze racehorse hockey, run it up and down the ice style. But again, I don't know what his philosophy is, whether it's control it more in our offensive zone and, work it around on the power play more, or whether it's, have that aggressive forecheck. And
yeah, I mean, is it a Western Michigan? Is it
right?
Old school North Dakota, Denver lockdown kind of format, or is it the classic, like St. Cloud for a long time was the run and gun team. It was, if you could pin them in, you could beat them night in, night out. But if they got away from you, you were screwed. I mean, They were just a talented team. And they just run all over you. Boston did that for quite a while in that it was all offense. It was all puck control. And the concern was, can we win by putting more putts in the net?
Exactly,
than you?
Yeah. And that's kind of been UNO. I mean, wouldn't you agree that's been UNO's philosophy the last...
Yeah, especially the Jane Gensel, Austin Ortega kind of era. There was a lot of... And that's Dean Blaze. I mean, when he came into North Dakota, that's when North Dakota made that transition from defense first lockdown, play the trap kind of thing.
To a more freewheeling style of hockey. Yeah.
More transition, more ebb and flow. And it'll be really interesting to see. And I think the freshmen this year is what I'm really looking forward to watch, is because I think this core of freshmen should be at least kind of more of what Gabinet looks for in a hockey player.
Yeah.
Talent-wise and mindset-wise. And so to see them develop over the course of the season and see what kind of style of play they get into and how that gels with some of the older kids, I think that'll be a really interesting
how that mixes
dynamic.
with some of those guys from like the Tristan Keck and the Mason Morelli and those guys from last year. It could be really interesting to see, but it's like we were saying, it's a big unknown. So that's probably why they're ranked in the 7th spot in the preseason poll that we're
in a league that's very, very tight, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 2 points could be the difference between home ice in the playoffs and not. And 7th place.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you look at those teams that finished in the top 4 last year, and even though North Dakota was a little down last year, they're still North Dakota. Mm-hmm. And they're still getting blue chip recruits in there. So that's the other thing to factor. UNO may be good, but those teams may be a little bit better. That's...
Yeah, it's just like Denver. I mean, Denver loses a head coach. They lose some key support staff. They lose, graduating seniors. They lose their top goaltender.
Right.
And then on top of that, mid-year, their expected captain, although he hadn't been announced yet, but as far as I know from everyone in Denver, this guy was going to be the leader of the team. And then he decides, you know what? I think I got a shot at the NHL. So
right.
I'm going to go sign with the local team, and off he goes. And I mean, more power to the kid, because quite honestly,
absolutely,
he's on the roster right now, a chance to be there opening night. So you can't fault him too much for that. But I saw a lot of people drop the expectation for Denver at that point in time, and I'm sitting here going, I watched Denver for a lot of years.
Yeah,
it's Denver.
Yeah,
I don't care. It's Denver. So yeah, I mean, Denver's kind of always an up team, and then you got Carroll College. You got the other half of the mirrored image of UNO is this Carroll College team that has a lot of returning players
and a lot of young players
leadership
on that team. And you figure when those guys are juniors and seniors, I mean, they could be that program, I know people kind of tend to think because they've been down the last few years that they're going to be down forever, but that's a national championship caliber program. That's a program that used to
has won national championships. Yeah. Not just been there, but they've actually come through. And
no, there was a little adjustment after Scott Owens left the program and they brought in their new coach. But I mean, that's a program that I think could be very good. They've been under the radar the last few seasons, but I think they could do a really good job. So
and with they're getting a new rink.
They are, yeah.
So you've got
that
recruiting. I mean, that's to be able to go into a kid's home and say, we've been down, but clearly we're moving in the right direction. We're getting there, and you get this brand new facility. It's what got to do when Baxter came around. It's like
it is because
state of the art, fancy shiny thing.
World Arena. Have you been? You've been to World Arena? Yeah. I mean, it's a nice facility, but it's kind of one of those like civic facility types. It's the city facility. It's a nice facility, but it'll be nice for them to have one that's dedicated in all the school colors, and it'll be smaller, but it'll be.
And I'd like to part of my concern at UNO is that they kind of had that similar issue that Carroll College had, where your rink doesn't seem at least like it's actually on campus,
right?
And so UNO is a little bit better, but at Carroll College, it's amazing how few students actually attend those games. And
it is. It's by strip malls and hotels and stuff like that. So
it's like out in the boonies and And any UNO student that's listening to this podcast, I want to encourage you, come out to a game and fill the student section. Because it is amazing. Those guys do a great job down there cheering, and every student that shows up to every game is class act. They've won the student section fan thing. I saw that voting stuff that they've won in the past.
Exactly. And you look about the fact that they didn't, have a student section for years. And so now that they actually have one.
When we were at the Clink, right? Yeah. And then when we were
at the Civic, there was nothing there. They tried it. They kind of got it going a little bit at the CenturyLink Center, and now it's wonderful to have that. So
it's certainly better. It's
not
the student section you get. Like, I've been to Michigan and I've been to Michigan State, and it's like those are holy cow student sections. Like,
oh my god,
going crazy nuts.
The Michigan one is it's like. It feels. It's basically like half of that lower part of their arena. It's just all people wearing maize and blue. So yeah,
standing room and no one sits and everyone's loud and
yeah, we're not quite there yet. I mean, unless it's a big game, but yeah, hopefully they will get there. But it's nice to have it. So I think Colorado College will benefit from that atmosphere because, if you look at, and obviously they've been down the last few years, but if you look at that arena, it leaves something to be desired in a modern context. So
right. So let's talk. We're talking about expectations for UNO right now. Let's go through the NCHC. We'll go bottom to top.
Okay.
And say who you think's going to be where and who I think's going to be where.
Okay.
And we'll start with the 8 slot, and I will get us going and say I think Miami's still the worst team in the NCHC.
I think they are too. And what's amazing is that program made it to like 7 or 8 straight NCAA tournaments before the formation of the NCHC when they were in the CCHA. Enrico Blasi, considered one of the best coaches in college hockey, and they've struggled since they've joined this conference, and I don't quite know why that is. I mean, again, it's probably a testament to the strength of this conference. So I would tend to agree at this point, but I think they might be better. A lot of their scorers were younger, but I would say at this time I pick 8th place for them. Sorry, Coach Blasi, but yeah.
And Menino going there, and it's like, I'm sorry, I love you, guy, but I don't think you guys are there. But I will say they are a team to watch in the future. I think they're on the right trajectory. I think they're moving in the right direction. Give them a couple years, they could be a pretty dangerous team to be up against. So, all right, so 7. You get to take 7. Who do you got at 7? The polls have UNO at 7 right now. So is it us or?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm going to... that's a good question because I was cautiously optimistic about the team a few minutes ago. But
and
then
now
I'm
you're
thinking,
wanting to put them at
who's
7.
above? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to think... I know people are talking about how good they believe Western's going to be with all those returning players. And Wade Allison was the player who got injured last year. But I'm going to pick Western Michigan in 7th place.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to... I sometimes those two teams, the kind of the outlier teams, Miami and Western, I feel like travel and other things affect them later in the season. So I'm going to say that might be the difference that puts them in 7th. But like I said, it's going to be very close. So I'm going to go with Western in 7th. Some people are saying they're good enough to win the conference. So I may be completely wrong here, but I'm going 7th with Western Michigan.
Well, we got this recorded. So at the end of the year when we do our pre-tournament podcast, we're gonna play this.
He has no idea what I'm talking. Yeah, he's got no idea what he's talking about.
We're gonna come back and apologize for being completely wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I've looked at it like 4 through 7 for me are the teams that healthy 4, injured 7. Like it's gonna come down to who can keep producing consistently and not have to, because you can't predict it. You just get hit by the injury bug and you're toast. So
you look at that Mason Morelli injury at the end of the first half last year, and I think it threw the team off. I mean, it
does. It messes one key guy, and I think that was Western Michigan's issue last year.
Yeah, losing Wade Allison.
When he went down, it did. It not so much the production that they lost as much as the chemistry that they lost. So I still have Colorado College at 7.
Okay,
I think they're going to be better. I think they will be a tougher team to play against. I think they win more than 6 games. I think it actually comes down to tiebreakers, and they end up losing to...
It could be... absolutely.
My 6th pick, Omaha, on tiebreakers. So...
Well, I'm picking Colorado College 6.
6, okay.
And like you said, this could be like at the end of last season where you've got 3 or 4 teams tied or within like a point of each other right there. So yeah, I'm going to pick Colorado College 6.
Okay.
I think they're going to be better this year. They've got their goaltender back this year.
Yep.
I think they're going to surprise this year. Could be wrong on that, but I think they will.
Okay. So 5, right?
5 for me. I'm going to put the Mavs in 5th place.
Okay.
So you're welcome, Mavs. I'm being optimistic here. I think we can finish in the top spot of the bottom half. I think we can be right in the mix. I think Gabinette's going to have this team. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think they're going to be stronger. I think with the veteran experience we have and some of those incoming freshmen that I'm really excited about, I think they'll be good.
I think if a couple key things happen for the Mavs,
they're going to be a team to really watch out for. I think if they play average to what I expect them to play, that's why I had them.
Well, certainly if they give up
if they
nearly
can
4
overperform,
goals, if they give up nearly 4 goals per game like they did last year, it may be tough when you don't have a guy like David Pope in the lineup.
See, and that's the thing is, I think that unless the freshmen come out on fire, I don't see where we can score an average 3.75 a game. And if we're not scoring 3.75 a game, we've got to be allowing less than 2 a game. And in this conference, that's tough sled.
It is very tough. But I'm being optimistic.
So we've got optimistic John and realist Jason.
Yeah. So who do you have in 5th?
So 5th, I've got North Dakota.
And the North Dakota fans are not going to be happy with you for picking them 5th.
They didn't like me when I went there with DU. They didn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
North Dakota fans, you're welcome, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. You know, North Dakota is an interesting one. The thing with North Dakota is they find a way to find talent. So
right.
I looked at the roster and said, I don't know that I have them 5th. I had them actually lower, and then thought, it's North Dakota. I can't put them any lower than 5th.
I know. That's my philosophy on it. It's North Dakota. So they find a way. Obviously they've lost some good players over the last couple seasons, but they're North Dakota. So
4th, I've got Denver in 4th. I think they're the last team with a home ice advantage. I think they got North Dakota coming in for the first round of the conference playoffs. I put them there mostly just because there are a lot of chemistry unknowns. I think the talent for the team is there. The question with Denver is, can the talent gel together to find a system and a mechanic that actually works to produce both defensively and offensively? Because I don't think it's just sometimes you look at a team and you're like, their defensive core is solid and their offense just needs to find some chemistry, or the other way around. I think top to bottom, Denver needs to figure some things out. And so I think they've got the talent enough to keep them in a home ice advantage, but I don't see them having the talent to really win.
They've lost some of the key players from those teams the last couple seasons. So that's
the goalie being the top one.
Goaltending.
I mean, he was he stole games for them. Yeah. Completely.
Yeah, he was
highway
a great
robbery.
goaltender. So that is probably the biggest question mark that I have for them.
Called Denver police and they told me apparently it's not allowed to report him for
But
stealing.
I will say my 4th place pick was North Dakota. So
okay.
Yeah.
So 3rd, I have Western Michigan. You had them lower.
Yes, I'm going to have Denver in 3rd place.
Denver in 3rd place.
Because it's Denver. And
Denver.
I think Coach Carl will do a good job with that team this year. And again, they've been so solid. And maybe it's just, maybe that's just my emotions from watching UNO struggle against them the last few seasons. But I like the Denver program, and I think they've got a lot of talent on that team. And who knows? Like you said, there are a lot of question marks and there are some holes. But I'm picking them 4th or 3rd or what? Third. Yeah. Okay. That's yeah.
So to shiny thing away from the whole Denver North Dakota conversation, we just got Connor to Jost for a goal. So woohoo! Denver to North Dakota for
there
a goal.
There you go. Yeah.
Preseason hockey. So, all right. So 2, I've got Duluth. I think we're both down to Duluth and St. Cloud, right?
Yes, and
I've got 2 Duluth, 1 St. Cloud. What do you have?
And I have been saying on Twitter and Facebook that I like St. Cloud to finish first place in the NCHC. So I'm with you on St. Cloud in 1st and Duluth in 2nd.
Okay. So what do you think separates these two?
I think those two teams are really, really close. There's part of me, and it depends. Now, some programs, have been able to win back-to-back championships, but there's part of me that wonders if there will be a bit of a letdown after having won the national title last year. And then on the flip side, you've got St. Cloud that had that disappointing loss in Sioux Falls in the NCAA tournament last year. And so their season didn't end anywhere near the way that fans were expecting. So I think that might be a little bit of motivation for that program. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in the case of St. Cloud, the biggest question mark is the fact that Motzko leaves. And that guy is a
right.
force of personality. behind the bench. So it'll be interesting to see how the new coach, who is from Duluth, was an assistant there the last few years, does. But I listened to his press conference. He sounds like a really impressive guy. So.
Right. For me, I think the difference between St. Cloud and Duluth was, oddly enough, watching their social media feeds and some of the chatter from some of the players. I got the feeling, at least completely third-party view, that there is more team chemistry at St. Cloud than there is at Duluth.
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, Duluth has a lot of returning players, so that's a key for them. But I'm kind of with you on the team chemistry.
I think a lot of times that gets overlooked by a lot of people. You know, they look specifically at talent. They look at high draft picks and they say, oh, this team's got, you know, that draft pick. And I'm like, I've been watching NHL. I've been watching hockey long enough. You know, even when I coached in Colorado and stuff, it was, I preached chemistry and we messed with lines a lot just to find that we're the two guys that just seem to have a knack for where each other are on the ice at any given time. And once we found that, we stuck with it. That was my biggest problem in the Dean Blaise era at UNO was like, I swear he would change things that were working just for the sake of change. And I'm sitting here going, someone tape his mouth shut.
You remember it was, he changes up lines just to change up lines. And then that final series of his at Western Michigan in the NCHC playoffs, they didn't switch things up the second night. And he's like, well, normally we switch things up the second night. And I decided not to. And then we lost. Maybe we should have switched things up. So now he's like, I did what you guys wanted. So, but I completely agree. There were times when the team was clicking and then it would just...
Or lines. Like there was a while there that Ortega and Gensel were on fire. And then like mid-game, he'd be like, oh, let's put Jake with this guy and Austin with this guy. I'm like, no.
It was a bizarre philosophy.
They score like every third time they're on the ice. Don't break them up.
I mean, I'm assuming there was a method to the madness, but, you know, honestly, at this point, who knows? But,
but as fans, we didn't get it, whatever the method was. So.
I don't think so. So, yeah, I like St. Cloud. That freshman class of theirs last season was really good, and they're going to be good this season.
And they're all and you know the intangible of every time you go there, you have to play on a larger sheet of ice.
It is the Olympic size sheet. It makes it can make a difference down the. It's difficult.
It's different. It takes especially when you've played. You know, some of these teams come in playing 5-6 series in a row on an NHL style sheet, and to all of a sudden be on an Olympic sheet. If you haven't skated hockey, if you haven't played hockey and jumped between the two of those, I don't think you have a really good understanding about what the actual difference is.
Because you're somebody who plays hockey. I don't play hockey, but you play hockey. Isn't it an easier adjustment to go from the large sheet to the smaller? Is it easier to go from large to smaller? Because that's what I've heard over the years, but I never quite knew if it was a wash, if it was just kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another, or...
It depends on your style. There were in the years of traveling between DU and CC. If you're not familiar with that series, they typically will do like Friday in Colorado Springs,
they do like a single game type of thing,
And so you get that a lot where you're like, it's not week to week type of thing. Right. There's not a break. Like literally, last night we played on this size. Tonight we're playing on smaller. It did not always work out well for Cara College like you would think. And I think that if you play a system that works in both of them,
you're fine.
It's probably better to go bigger to smaller than smaller to bigger. But ultimately it comes down to, can you transition? Because if you can transition from defense to offense effectively, not necessarily quickly, because North Dakota in their tight checking years, they would do just fine at St. Cloud's and Cara Colleges and Michigan's and things like that. So they did fine on the bigger sheet, and it's because they were effective at what they were doing. They knew that the puck needed to be here and the player needed to be there, and the puck and the player were there every time. And so I think if you get the right system, you get the right players that are committed to that system, it really doesn't matter. But it does from a player's perspective. And you have to have the conditioning, especially going to Colorado College,
because not only you have so much more ice to work with,
and you're at 5,000 feet.
Like,
absolutely, yeah. You've got the thin air and the bigger ice sheet. So
and you're getting dehydrated, and you're getting tired, and your shifts are too long, and
and it all depends on how much depth your team has.
So I think we're at the end of the podcast. I think one thing before we go, since we've picked the NCHC.
Yes.
And the NCHC the last 2 years has been kind of the team to beat in the overall Frozen Four.
They've been the toughest.
I mean, we've
toughest
had
conference. Yeah,
multiple teams in the Final Four, and
absolutely.
So, who do you think? One pick for the team that's going to win everything this year
in the Frozen Four.
The national championship, end of the year standing, raising the trophy.
Well,
not drinking beer because most of these kids aren't old enough.
You know what? Let's go with Minnesota Duluth repeating its national championship.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not going to finish first in the NCHC, but they can win. Scott Sandelin is a fantastic coach. And I think the veteran coach who's got the experience getting a team there and the players on that roster who have experience getting there, I'm going to go with our conference mate. I'm going to go with Duluth.
An
to win it all.
NCHC repeat.
Yes.
Very interesting. There's a lot of teams I want to see. I want to see how Notre Dame bounces back from
absolutely
missing out. I think
Ohio State's going to be solid in the Big Ten too.
Yeah, you got Ohio State out there, but the Big Ten is kind of a sludge conference, so
it's hard to know what's going to happen.
I think they can get out of there. Penn State's got an interesting road there.
I love Guy Gadowski and what he's done at Penn State.
I think I've got Boston College as a surprise. I've got Air Force as a surprise coming in. I think right now I like the look of Boston College.
Well, in Boston
I think
College,
it's Boston College against an NCAC team.
And you look, and the pairwise, Boston College was just on the outside looking in last year. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of returning players on that roster, and it's Boston College. They are a team that, for a number of years was kind of a perennial Frozen Four participant, so you could be right on that.
And it's East Coast hockey where they don't have to travel much, and when they get to the Frozen Four, they're not going to have to travel much.
And that's a totally sound pick. I'm just not going against the NCHC.
Well, like I said, I've got Boston College against an NCHC team. I just don't know who they're going to have to play right now.
Is it going to be St. Cloud? Is it going to be Duluth? Who's it going to be?
I think it's another year where there's multiple NCHC teams in the Frozen Four.
I think you're absolutely right. And, you mentioned Air Force there, and that program continually in Atlantic hockey.
Mm-hmm. In a conference
Frank
it's usually throwaway.
Former Lancer coach Frank Serratori, what he's been able to do at a service academy with that program has been phenomenal. And they're a hard team to play. So
that speaks to the work ethic of just the way those guys are kind of molded and cut, and with everything else that they have to go through outside of hockey, they're commendable young men, and like I said, it will be a fun team to watch.
It definitely will be a fun team to watch.
This is why we need an NCAA package so
I
can watch
I would
any
love
team
to
from
watch
any
those.
conference.
Every once in a while, you get one of those games on ESPN3, and then
like CBS Sports.
And KXVO here in Omaha would play that, whatever the syndicated outfit was that would play and it was fun to watch some of those ECAC games, and those are games we just don't get to see that often. So it'd be really cool to be able to see that. So they need to
you don't always get to see coming to Omaha. So.
Right. So somebody out there, ESPN, somebody. You need to sign a deal and get all these teams on. So
they just need to make their own package. I mean,
they do.
Like the National Women's Hockey League has a package, and the NHL has a package, and quite honestly, for I don't know what you cost, like $60, $100 even. I mean, like I watch enough hockey that it's.
I would pay for that game, and if we were at a game, I'd watch them on demand. So absolutely,
pull them up on your phone.
So if you're listening, NCAA.
Because I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Of the inaugural Mavpuckcast.
We know everybody's going to be listening to this thing. So yes, you guys need to get that done. Because Jason and I would like to watch it. So
maybe you're only 2 customers, but hey, 2 customers.
That's right.
Don't shun at us. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I think unless you've got anything else to talk about, I think we're
no. I think this. I think this was fun for the first. Mavpuckcast, and
we had a blast, right?
We did. We had a great time, and
hope all the listeners had a blast. And
yeah, and I think it'll be
it.
exciting as the season. Once the season gets underway, we'll have a lot more to talk about as the race starts to unfold. So I'm very excited, and I know you're excited. So.
Yeah, very much so. So look for our next episode. We will get these out as frequently as possible, and if you got anything you want to say to us, that's kind. We don't like trolls or anything, so you guys can all just go heck. But if you got something good to say, Mavpuck on Facebook and the Mavpuck website, because they can get on the forum, right?
Yes, and you can tweet us at Mavpuck if you have any questions, because we would love to answer your questions in an upcoming episode. So that would be fantastic.
You send us content, and if we like it, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. That would make our job easier having questions. So we don't have to come up with all this stuff by ourselves. So yeah.
And get distracted by shiny things.
Like exactly. Alerts on our iPhones and all that. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon.
Talk to you later, everyone.